Yeah, when I started comedy, obviously I started strong and I had a crush early on and that gave me the high, but I hadn't felt the low of a bomb yet. And I thought I had, but I heard these horror stories from other comedians being like, and they would describe just a trauma, and I'm like, it can't be like that. It can't be. And eventually I started to have my first few bombs, and the worst bomb I've ever had, it's unlike anything. It's crazy. I had a bomb where I was hired for a private event to do 20 minutes of material for these like guys who played footy for Wembley, it's a suburb here in Perth, in the 1970s. So these guys are all now in their like 60s or so, and I got up there as like a 27-year-old kid being like, you guys know about when you're with your girlfriend and you love her, and they're like, I hate my wife. I was the most unrelatable guy. It was dead silence for 20 minutes, no laughs, no one would even look at me. People were just eating their pasta while I was bearing my soul. It was a trauma. It was so bad, and it just makes you look at yourself and go, is this really what I want to do? This is crazy, you know? But at the end of the day, you kind of zoom out and you go, I told jokes and people didn't laugh. It's not the worst thing in the world. There are way worse things in the world. Like in martial arts, you get beaten up all the time, and at least you have that as a point of reference. But bombing is, man, it's part of it. You need to bomb in order to be a good comedian. But when it comes, you just like, I can't believe it's this horrible. I can't believe it feels like this. It shouldn't feel like this. It does. It's bad. I was born in Perth. My parents were 18 and 19 years old when they had me. It's a fun little fact. Basically children. You know, now I'm an adult looking back. Crazy. But my early memories were very happy as a young kid. We were pretty poor, I know that now. Like I said, my parents were 18 and 19 when they had me, we were real poor. But I remember being very happy. We sort of had a very simple life. My dad was like a taxi driver at night. My mum was always working super hard, and things were kind of a little bit chaotic at home, you know, but it still felt normal. Like, still went to school. We weren't hungry, missing meals and stuff like that. But I remember from an early age, like being super young, just wanting to, I guess, just entertain people, you know? Like, I don't know, man. Family, I would try and be like, look at the song I wrote, or, you know, if there was a movie scene, I would try and like act it out. I would try and crack jokes, make my granddad laugh. And I don't know where that comes from. I don't know if mum wasn't hugging me too much or something, but I always wanted attention, and I always wanted to perform and be silly, you know? So, and that's carried all the way through into adulthood, you know, just that desire to perform and be special. And I guess now that I'm 28, I'm just trying to make it more about just being good at what I do as opposed to making it all about me. Man, primary school was a breeze. I remember feeling like crazy confident, because I think in primary school there's no like real hierarchies yet. Everyone's like, we're all friends, you know, we're all just getting along, you're all kids, you know. And then I remember I got to high school and I learned I was fat. You know, like I didn't know. And then in high school, like early days, year 8, someone was like, you're really fat and funny. And I was like, what the hell do you mean I'm fat? Like I didn't know. People were like, dude, you're a fat guy. And a lot of the sports that are presented to you as an Aussie kid, it's like football, swimming, just none of the things that suit a voluptuous child like me. So I didn't do much, just played rugby a little bit in like my under 15s. And I remember playing rugby in the under 15s, and kids were turning up, supposedly under 15, with like their own children and like full beards, 6'2", and I was thinking, if these are the people I got to compete against, I got to find a new sport. For me, when I left high school, I was taking the scenic route on, I'm going to be an actor, I'm going to be an entertainer, no matter what. The first thing I remember thinking was that actors are very fit, and I was not fit. So to start my acting career, I went to a gym and was like, I need to just get jacked. And not the best career move, but it was positive in the end. And I went to a gym, met a guy. I actually started doing CrossFit in like 2014. That kind of took me on its own journey and sort of just becoming obsessed with fitness and more in the fitness world, which eventually led me to MMA and things like that today. When I first achieved anything that I had worked at in fitness, and I think for a lot of people, fitness is sort of the first goals that they need to achieve in order to sort of take that confidence into every other area of their life. It's something you feel in your body. When I first started to feel fit, and like I remember being really bad at CrossFit and only being able to lift like tiny amounts of weight to eventually getting a little bit stronger, and you feel that thing. I'm feeling good about myself for the first time, maybe ever. And that sickness, like if you could call it that, is in my head of like, I need to be special. So I think maybe this is my thing, So I am like, I'm going to become a world champion. I'm training. Now all of a sudden the things become my identity. This is what I do. I'm the guy in the gym posting selfies. Just got another day done. Like I'm intolerable to be around. I'm posting like transformation pics of my body. I got like a pink towel. It's crazy. It's weird stuff. I'm becoming cringe. But behind it was this desire to be special. And I think I went on that for a couple of years until eventually I realized that I wasn't even working on acting. I wasn't working on these original goals I had. I'd originally come to sort of get fit in order to help my acting career, but then I'd become so obsessed with feeling good about achieving physical fitness goals that I'd been torn away. I'd been kind of pulled away into that. So I was like, all right, cool. I'm just going to train to stay fit, and I'm going to focus more on acting. And that's what I did. And then I eventually auditioned and got into WAPA, which is the Western Australian Academy of Performing Arts.
Right. Interview with Lucas Miller terminated at 8:43.
See you later, Sarge.
I think this happens to everyone where whatever you're doing, whatever you're pursuing, there comes a point where in order to be great at this thing, to be exceptional, you kind of need to start sacrificing other things. You need to become tunnel vision. You need to be doing this more than just a hobby. You need to be really lasered in. And for a lot of people like myself, when you come to that point and that ain't you, you can walk away. Or you become the delusional person at the bar being like, I could have been someone if it wasn't for me knees. And I didn't want to become that. So I was like, this is not for me. And I don't want to take this further. This is as far as I go. And then I wanted to focus back in on acting. And I auditioned. I got in. I started up in 2017 at WAPA. I think I was about 23 years old. And in my mind, man, I've wanted to be an actor my whole life. Now I'm in this like prestigious drama school. I've gotten in. These kids are all going to be like me. These weird kids that have never felt like they fit in. We're all going to be holding hands and singing Kumbaya and doing Shakespeare and I'm going to find my tribe finally. But as I went there, what I realized was like I was a jock to these people. Like I was this white straight dude who liked the gym and ate his food prep out of Tupperware containers, and this was a school that belonged to the marginalized, to the people that were bullied, you know what I mean? So it's like the bullied becomes the bullies because they have the majority. And I think, like they just didn't like me. But what was cool about it was I got to focus on the acting. I loved it. It was awesome. And then when I graduated in 2017, I got to go out and eventually got a manager, and then the journey sort of started from there, just being able to audition and eventually book work in film and TV. Woo! Tell me you've seen it out there. Big swell.
Yeah?
Yeah. Best barrels I've seen in a while. Yeah, it was a weird thing going to WAPA because, again, internally, I've always felt like the fat weird kid that has weird nipples. Don't look at him now. I've always felt like just this weirdo that wanted to fit in, you know what I mean? And then I went away and tried to become fit to be accepted and to be liked. And then I've gone into drama school and now I'm not being accepted and liked because you know what I mean? I represent and now I'm the fit jock. And I'm like, no, you don't get me. I'm like you. I'm just beautiful now. Take me in visually, but I'm still in my heart this weird drama kid who never fit in high school. So that was a weird experience, man. And it's like, and I'm sure these people, if they were to see this or to hear this, they'd be like, we didn't like you because you're fit. didn't like you because you're a dick. But luckily, the blessing in disguise was that I got to focus on. No one really liked me other than a close mate of mine that I was in drama school with. So I just got to focus on the actual thing itself. And I love acting, man. I love screen acting, the craft of it. And that was almost like an advantage. You know, I wasn't there to make friends. I was there to focus on getting good at acting, getting out, getting an agent, and then starting to work.
Think I let you down? It's my fault he drowned.
That's not what I said.
What are you saying? I should have come down from the tower, I should have helped, and then what? Someone else drowns on the beach and I'm not there to call it in?
Someone did drown, though.
Man, these things went down that, this is going to sound like champagne problems, right? But the worst thing that could happen to an actor kind of happened to me in terms of the carrot being dangled, right? So I came out of drama school. I go to Sydney, I showcase, and I send a bunch of emails out to these agents. I meet with a bunch of them, and I sign to the best manager you can ask for in Australia. This guy, he's a great friend of mine, super well connected. I sign with him, he gets my thing, we become fast mates, and he's telling me, you're gonna be a fucking star kid. Doesn't even touch me or anything. Just tells me straight up, you're gonna be the best. Then I go to LA, I start auditioning for things, and I'm getting like down to the final picks on some of these shows. And so I'm getting all this encouragement. The end of 2019, and I am certain I'm gonna become a global superstar. 3 months later, I move to Sydney, and COVID hits. It all falls apart. I move back to Perth, and I go from like managing a bar in Sydney, feeling like I'm about to become Matt Damon, to like living at my girlfriend's uncle's place in Midland. I have a Kmart clothes rack with like 2 pairs of shoes and like singlets hanging up in a room dedicated to Jesus. Like, this guy had like a Russian mail order bride, and it was just Jesus all over the walls. And I remember just sitting there thinking, what just happened to my life? Like, I thought I was gonna be a star, and now I'm in Jesus's bedroom with like 2 pairs of shoes. And it was like a real low point, man. So I remember just like all this encouragement and my identity being tied up in like, I'm gonna be an actor, it's gonna happen for me, to then a global pandemic, which affected me more than anyone. And just having to accept, all right, it's time to start again. And from that, I started doing stand-up comedy.
One sweeter relief in life than that for me, and that's when I'm driving along, minding my business, and I see what appears to be a cop car in the rear view just behind me, and for some reason I think he's after me, so I get that instant irrational panic. You know, the one where the heart rate spikes, hands go to 10 and 2 on the wheel for the first time since the driving test. You shut the music off as suddenly you've lost the ability to drive and listen to music.
Well, during COVID, everything was locked down, and there was no acting work going on. That was one of the industries that shut down first. You know, no one was flying anywhere. Shows, TV shows, movies all shut down, so there was no acting work to speak of. So I remember feeling this itch of like, how do I do something creative? You know what I mean? And I'd always liked stand-up comedy. I'd always thought of myself as, I always try to be funny with my friends, and I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna challenge myself and do some stand-up comedy. There was this open mic competition of like, you do 5 minutes, and it's like they go around the whole country and they pick the winners from each state, and then you go over to Melbourne Comedy Festival to do this basically comedy on TV. And that was the first time I was going to do comedy. I entered it, I wrote 5 minutes of material, I had no idea what was going on, and I did it, and then I got through each round, and each time I did the next round, I did like a new 5 minutes. You are not supposed to do that. You were supposed to do the same 5 minutes and just make it better and better and better. I just did a new 5 minutes every time. It came to the final, the grand final, and I did it, and it went crazy. Like, it was the first time I've ever crushed in my life. Like, I went out, it was packed out, a couple hundred people, and yeah, man, just like the feeling of an entire room just like losing their mind, laughing, smiling, feeling good. And there's like this flow you get into when you're crushing in comedy. It's like you're riding a wave. You can feel that you can do anything with that room. Like, you pull a face and they're like, you're a god. You know, it's like, it's this flow state you kind of get into. And I wish everyone could feel it. It's crazy. And I felt that for the first time. I came off stage, and like I went backstage, and there was like other comics that were like, what the fuck was that? You know, and I was like, yeah, that was crazy. And I didn't win that night. I came second. But it didn't matter, man. I already had that bug. I already felt what it was like to feel that. And that was me from then on. I was like, this is what I want to do, you know? Acting is now like an afterthought. I want to do this. I want to get better at this.
Like, you know, people have asked me like, well, how are you gonna feel when you get to the point where you have, you know, like real like haters? Like, if you eventually do pop off in comedy or whatever, you get people out there. I'm like, I might be wrong, but I can't wait. I want the more negativity, the better. Yeah. Just because I have like, I've got my girlfriend, I've got my family, I've got my friends. Like I know who I am. Yeah. You can't get to that. I'm fine. But as far as whatever the persona of what I do, go as hard as you can. Yeah. Like I want people out there just screaming that I'm like, they just can't believe that anyone's giving me a shot. Yeah. Like, fucking damn it!
100%.
This guy sucks!
It's the best.
It's so funny. I think it's good. And you want people just passionate out there that I just need to expose this fraud.
For me, man, like I in comedy, I come from like a more performative background with acting and stuff like that. So early on, and kind of still today, I had stage presence, right? I would come on and I would early on, people would be like, oh, this guy's speaking with confidence. I could kind of articulate things very well, and physically I had a presence on stage, but all my material was very planned down to the syllable. If one thing went wrong, it all went wrong. It was all connected, you know? So now I'm trying to get away from that and make it more loose. Like I have an intention, kind of like in a fight. You would go in there, you have a game plan, but you have to address what is happening in front of you. You can't come out there and be like, I'm going to throw a double jab right hand, he's going to slip, I'm going to throw it to the body, then I'm going to move off, single leg, take him down, gill it. It just, you know, it doesn't work like that. You kind of have to have an intention and then adjust in the moment as to what's happening. And that's kind of what I try and do with comedy now. I start with a plan, and then if some woman's talking about her daughter's disabled and she's screaming it at me, I'm going to have to address that, you know, carefully. But I can't keep talking about whatever I was planning to talk about, you know? So that's kind of my routine now. It's like prepare, but then be ready to adjust.
When you do comedy, when you see someone being honest on stage, that's the thing that breaks through and is funny. When someone's like being real honest, like, oh, I fucked it, fuck, you're like, yes. Or like, it's why it's so good when comics go, you know, like, just fucking laugh, I hate this shit. You're like, yes. He's telling the truth.
I would say comedy now is sort of my main goal, you know, but I'm not attaching my identity to it anymore. I just want to be good at the thing. My life mantra now is that I just want to be good at the things that I like doing. And if people are just going to keep giving me the opportunities to do them, awesome. I'm not going to be the one that says no. Other people are welcome to say no to me. Please tell me no. I always think I don't deserve it, but until you tell me no, I'm just going to keep doing it. So comedy is that for me. If acting jobs come in, which they do every now and then, great, awesome. And, you know, somewhere along the way, I met some of my closest friends, and Jack Becker and Rod Costa, through the martial arts community, and started training with them. And then the opportunity came up through Scrappy MMA for the Eternal job and emceeing. And again, they were like, oh, I remember Ben Vickers was saying to me, hey, like, you talk shit. You like being a funny boy. What do you reckon about hosting an MMA thing? Like, what do you reckon about announcing, like a Bruce Buffer type of job? And I remember thinking, yeah, I'd love that. I'd been over with Jack Becker when he won the title. I'd met Daniel Maudsley, who was my predecessor and good friend, and I was like, man, I'd be honored. And he did the worst thing you could ever do to a man. And he said to me in the middle of the gym, he goes, if you want the job, we're going to do a practice announcement right now. You're going to announce Jack Della Maddalena, and you're going to announce Jack Becker in each corner. He gave me no notes. He gave me no rhythms, nothing. And I just autistically stood in the middle of the cage and was like, this guy. And it was the worst thing in the world. And somehow from that, Cam O'Neill, the Eternal director, was like, yeah, this kid, let's give him a go. And then they flew me out for my first ever show for Eternal 65 on the Gold Coast.
Feel good, feel great. Got the call on short notice, but took the opportunity. So I've got a bit of experience with stand-up comedy and acting, but this is a whole different ballgame, broadcasting. You know, there's some very passionate fighters in here who put everything on the line. So I want to do a good job by them and a good job by the promoters as well. So we'll see how we go. This might be a good clip to cut later on together when I have a meltdown in the cage. I'm sorry. No, it'll be good times tonight. I'm excited. This is an example of like, you give a man no tools to shine, and then he doesn't shine, and you're like, this guy's not very good.
We're gonna fight.
Fuck, man.
Have you seen him?
I haven't seen it, dude. I didn't even know it was a thing.
All right, first play.
Dude, look at me. I have a jiu-jitsu rash guard and shin guards on. This is... Kilos. This is my audition.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event of the evening.
That's trademark. That's Bruce Buffer, dude. Don't do that.
First, fighting out of the blue corner, hailing from Scrappy MMA and the Costa Academy, weighing in at 70.5 kilograms with a record of 10 wins, 2 defeats. It's Jack Becker.
Oh, jeez, Louise, dude.
And his opponent, fighting out of the red corner, hailing from Scrappy MMA. The end, weighing in at 77.5 kilograms.
I'm a genius.
With a record of 11 wins and 2 defeats, it's Jack Dale!
Jeez, Louise. Yeah, wow. That's weird, man. I mean, like, it's funny, but it's... I don't know what Cam saw in that video. It was like, this kid, this is the guy we want. But I'm grateful. I'm grateful that he did.
Fighting out of Sydney, Australia, with a professional record of 7 wins for 2 defeats. Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for the reigning, the eternal heavyweight champion, Cam
I did the audition in the gym, and by some generous miracle, they said, you got the job. We're going to fly you out in 2 days' time to the Gold Coast to do your first show for Eternal 65. Josh Kuhn versus Dim Skillies in the main event. And they were like reassuring me, don't worry, it's probably not going to be the fight of the year. It's probably not going to be a war. You just do what you can. There's no stress, low stakes, everything's fine. You'll be good. And so I had 2 days to prepare. So I'm going over notes. I called Daniel Maudsley, my predecessor, and he was incredibly generous, man. He was incredibly generous with all his time and information. And I want to talk a little bit about Daniel too, because Maudsley really set the bar, in my opinion. I'd been a fan just coming to Eternals to watch some of them and seeing Maudsley, and I saw the sort of level of professionalism and his brand that he attacked emceeing with, and his authenticity, his ability to sort of match the fighter's energy and make them shine. And, you know, I mean, that was highlighted. Like, you talk about, when I look at a performer or a broadcaster or a presenter and I look at their level of talent, I look at their ability to sort of be flexible and to adjust. And, you know, you want to look at like Stephen Erceg versus Cody Hatton in the main event in Perth. I don't know what Eternal it was, but it was the main event with Fight of the Year. And at the end of it, the decision is read out and Stephen Erceg lies on the ground. He's so emotional. And rather than Daniel telling him to just get up, he lays down with him and sits down and interviews him from the canvas. And like when I saw that, I was like, this guy he gets it. Like, it's not about you, it's about it's about the fighter, it's about the show. And that's kind of what I took into the job, and I thought, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I need to figure out how to make it about the fighter. So I went over there, Eternal 65, my first show, and, you know, I'm trying to figure out my own rhythms. I'm making mistakes in the prelims. Then it gets the UFC Fight Pass and the broadcast. I remember it going okay to an extent, and then the main event happens between Josh Kuhn and Dim Skillies, and of course, it's just a bloodbath. It's just the most exciting fight people have seen in ages, just punching each other's faces in. And at the end of it, Cam O'Neill stands up cage side, he claps, and he turns to me and he goes, "You interview both of them." But Scottish. "You interview both of them. You interview both of them." I don't know how to do it. But he said it, and I was like, I'd prepared all my questions for one winner, because there's only a one winner, Cam. And he was like, "You're going to interview both." So I'm like, all these questions are so specific to winning the fight, and I'm panicking. It's my first ever show. I get in there, and I'm like, maybe Maybe the fighters will help me out. Maybe they're not in bad condition. Josh Kuhn has a concussion. He doesn't know what century it is. He's doing his best to be articulate. Dim Skillies has won the fight. Both his hands are broken. He is trembling in pain. They're cutting the gloves off him. I'm like, what's going through your mind right now, Dims? He's like, pain, pain, pain. I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? I'm just improvising in the moment. It's terrifying. Somehow we get through it. I interview both of them. I give them their moment and I get off. And I walk up to Cam like, I'm sorry. And he was like, that was great. It was perfect. Dimps is trembling in pain and Josh doesn't, he thinks he's 4 years old. That's cool. Let's get on with the show. And like from there, I had the job. I couldn't believe it, but it was such a trial by fire, that first show. It was gnarly. I came into the sport just like as a casual fan, I was like, just bleed, just stand and bang, all this kind of stuff. And my friends fight in the sport, but until I got a real glimpse at kind of what it takes a little bit more behind the scenes for these fighters to get in there and do what they do, the kind of human being you need to be, how vulnerable you need to be, how hard you need to work, how much you need to sort of embrace that uncertainty and that fear and get in there irrespective of the result. I just like, it sounds cliche, man, but I just fell in love with the type of people that do this sport, and it just made me so full of fear to be like, I need to make sure that I'm doing the best job I can for these people, and my favorite thing as an Eternal MC, my favorite thing in the world, man, is that like every fighter's got their own energy, right? Some people come in they've got a crazy walkout song, they're pumped up, they can't wait to fight. Some people come in real sheepish and they're kind of nervous. And my absolute favorite thing about being the Eternal MC is when I see a fighter and they're in their corner and I can see that the moment is big for them. They're feeling the pressure. And I'll start my announcement and I'll kind of like try and lock in with them a little bit, try and get their eye contact. And I'm starting to talk about where they're from and their record and who their coach is and all this stuff, and I'm building this rhythm, and I can sort of see this little change in them where they're like, oh, this is sick. Oh, this is, yeah, like I am, yeah, fuck me, yeah, fuck yeah, let's go. And I'm like, yeah, dude, let's do it, you got it, you can, and I love that I can create that kind of thing, and it kind of gets them out of their head for a second. They're like, yeah, let's have a fight, this is awesome. I love that. And then I get to turn around and be like, you got it, bro, and then just do it for the person that's trying to bash their head in and be like, no, you got it. Fuck that other guy, red corner, and it's like, and then I see the same change in them. And that's awesome, man. The fact that in this moment for these people that they're doing what they love, this is a huge opportunity for them that I get to have some influence over how that experience goes, win or lose. Give them that little moment of like, hey man, remember when you were a kid and you wanted to be a fighter, you are a fighter. Like, I'm here with you, like, I'm giving you my all. Like, win or lose, you did it. Like, let's go. You feel this, feel this thing. That's awesome. That's my fucking favorite thing in the world. And, and it's like, that's what I've always wanted to do and what I want every fighter that fights on Eternal to feel when I announce for them. Even if they're fighting my friends, I don't care. I respect the shit out of you. I respect what you're doing. God bless you. Like, fucking get in there. Thank you for taking a risk and doing what you love to do. Thank you. We need more people like you. Please don't hurt my friend. Well, man, I first met Jack in, I think, around 2016. I was working for Lululemon, don't judge me. And they would sort of just meet with people, fitness people in the area, in the community, and we would do stuff. And it just so happened that Jack Becker was a coach at this gym in the community, and we went down for a group fitness class hosted by MMA fighter Jack Becker, and there I am in my Lululemon, probably an earring, who knows. And, this guy's a fighter and he seems like a really nice guy. And I ask him every painful question under the sun of like, you fighter, you knock people out? Like, how many fights you won? Are you going to go to UFC? Like, every painful question. He was patient with me. He was super nice. And I remember we did the fitness class, and afterwards I went away and I Googled and YouTubed his fights, and I looked up the things that he had done, but I remember just feeling like he was a nice guy. He was just so calm. He was just a great, like, he seemed like just happy with himself, authentic. So I was sort of drawn to him. I think I'm in love with him. And after that, we just sort of became friends, and we kind of started talking more. And then eventually he encouraged me to come train at Costa Academy, which was just opening in 2020. It was his friend, who was his jiu-jitsu coach, Rod Costa. So when I go down there in 2020, I meet Rod, who's a Brazilian guy who will tell you firsthand that he did not like me. He met me and was like, I don't like this kid. He's too confident. He shouldn't be confident because he's got nothing to be confident about.
Are you filming now?
Yeah.
I hate it. And but you know, I was drawn to him too. I thought he was such a fucking awesome guy, the way he carried himself, his authenticity, all that stuff. And then we started training together, and just slowly but surely, like, I just became a little bit more involved with the sport as a hobbyist, until eventually, you know, Jack gets the call for he's having a shot at the Eternal Lightweight title. It's COVID, there's lockdowns. I think we're in 2021, and we still have to quarantine if we come back, you know, and everyone's got families, everyone's got all these things going on. They can't afford to do 2 weeks quarantine, but I was like, I can. I came over, and that was my first time, like, doing a trip like that, being in the Eternal scene. Not many people could come over. Jack wins the title against Dan Hill, and it was such a special memory, man. And I remember the Eternal guys caught just, I think it's, for my money, one of the best photos in MMA, Australian MMA history, of Jack just ecstatic winning the title, and like, I'm grabbing him, holding him, Rod's holding him, Lawrence Whitesmith's holding him. And it was just such a special moment, man. It was just this crazy, like, the world had been paused. I'd gone over to support a close friend, help, you know, and do whatever I can to help him achieve his dream. And it, you know, like, no matter what happens for the rest of my life, like, that will always be a special memory. So that was really, really cool.
Eternal Lightweight Champion, Jack Becker!
Being the Eternal MC and broadcasting, it was also, like, totally different to anything I'd ever done before. So, like, I'd done acting. In acting, you get to have a second take. Like, we didn't do it great, let's do it again. In broadcasting, there is no second take. This is live on UFC Fight Pass. We have to go now. So it came with its own challenges, you know what I mean? It's like, I can't hide behind jokes like I do in comedy. If there's imperfections in stand-up, I can use them to my advantage. I can't do that in broadcasting. So it needed kind of like a different approach. And for every high that there is in the job, there's also these lows. And obviously the most prominent low and unexpected thing that's happened with me as the Eternal MC was Jack Becker breaking his leg, defending his title in Perth.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the beautiful HBF Stadium in Perth, Western Australia. Proudly brought to you by proper number 12 Irish Whiskey, live on UFC Fight Pass. This is Eternal 66, Becker versus Aguilera.
And as you mentioned, our main event between the dominant champion, the lightweight champion, Jack Becker, and the number one contender, Aiden Aguilera, should be a fun night.
He wants to prove a point that he's got better, he's an improved fighter, he's a better version of himself, and he wants to make a statement.
Ready? Fight!
It was hard, man. It was fucking hard. You know, like, I just couldn't believe it when I first saw it. I was like, oh God, like, no, what? Like, no. And I remember the audience, like, the whole stadium felt it, like, it pulled the energy out of the whole arena, you know? And I had to work, you know? Like, I remember his family was there, his girlfriend was there. And I just remember thinking, oh, geez, like, I knew that you can lose. You know, I knew that like my friends fighting, losing's part of a sport, like it happens. But I never considered that they could get hurt like that. I never considered that they could end their career in a moment, or fuck, even their life, man. I don't know. I didn't know how bad the break was, you know. But I had to do my job and give his belt to Aiden. He was a fucking legend. Shout out to him. And it was tough, man. And I had to kind of bottle it all up. We had to do a post-show breakdown of the fights, and then I got in my car and I fucking cried for like 30 minutes straight, just driving home. You know, I didn't know if his career was over. I didn't know if that was it for him. I just felt unfair, you know. And if anyone that knows Jack, like, a lot of people work hard in this sport, and a lot of people pay their dues, and a lot of people are good people. But you know, he's, you know, I'm biased, but he's one of those guys, and it just felt unfair. But from that, you know, the journey that Jack's been on since to sort of rehabilitate his mind and his body and kind of build himself back up, you know, to the point that he's at now, it really was a blessing in disguise. And I hope he wouldn't mind me saying that, because he's the one that had to get the surgery and do all that rehab. But he came back and fought a former 2-time champion in under 2 years. Most people never come back from that break. He looked great, didn't win that fight, picks himself up, fights again, a seasoned veteran, gets the win, and he's back to where he's at now. And he's a completely different athlete and a completely different guy. And I just don't think that a lot of people understand, because he works in the shadows and he doesn't want the praise for that thing. But it's like that. Forget whatever happens for the rest of his career. The fact that he's come back and can fight people like Kieran Joblin after suffering an injury like that, it's unbelievable. It's an inspiration, you know. Like, it's, yeah. I'm just privileged to be his mate. It's cool, you know. It's cool.
In terms of the fights, everyone was hunting finishes. It was so exciting. It was mad. Obviously, I'm a professional and I'm not biased, but Jack back in the win column, obviously very emotional. But best job in the world, man. This is the best fucking job in the world. I'm just stoked.
Sometimes when fighters would be walking out, I would imagine myself walking out, even though I'm just the announcer, and I would be doing it, and I would find myself getting nervous, and my heart rate would start to go up. I'm like, how did I even? This is a light heavyweight fight. How are we doing? What's going on? And I'd be like, oh, and then I have to calm myself down, and be like, you're not fighting. It's cool. You're just the announcer. But I would have fantasies a lot about fighting, and I just wanted to share what my friends were going through when they got in there and fought. And I felt like, I don't know, it was like paying respect to the fighters in some way, that like, not only am I involved in this sport, like I've at least done it once, so I have a little bit more of an understanding as to sort of what you go through in the fear and what it's like to get punched in the face very, very hard. So I just kind of dove in and was just, you know, I reached out to a promotion. I couldn't fight on a turn, unfortunately, obviously working for them, and just said, listen, I want to jump in there. I want to have a fight. They found me a match. I accepted, and we sort of just went from there. So I book in the fight. The fight's ready to go. I'm fighting a guy. It's his fourth fight. I've actually announced his fight previously at Eternal. And not only that, like, he's fighting out of a gym that we're very friendly with, and I respect his coach, and I'm friends with his coach. So it's a pretty strange circumstance. But, you know, I very much a mindset that I picked up from Rod Costa and Jack Becker is, it's like, you know, you're never ready. You just need to test yourself. There's never going to come a time where you're ready to go. Just dive in and see how you do. So that happens. My partner is a nutritionist, so managing the weight was easy. I make weight, I go in and I weigh in against him. And I remember seeing him, he was a tall kid, he's about 6'1". He was a striker. And when I told everyone that who I was fighting, people at my gym were telling me, oh yeah, like that guy, yeah, he hits hard. And I remember thinking, these people that were telling me this, they also hit hard. I was like, do I hit hard? And they were like, you hit, you do a hit, you hit, man, you can hit. That's for sure. He hits hard. And I was kind of like, oh shit, okay, this kid hits hard. I remember I weighed in with him and he was taller than me. He was kind of like lanky, and I thought, this guy's not that much. I'll bash this kid. This is fine. Then cut to the fight day, fight night. I'm kind of going through the motions. I'm out the back warming up with Jack, and I'm trying to relax. My focus is I just want to relax and be myself. I don't want to try and pretend to be someone I'm not, that I'm this destroyer, you know, that I'm Rampage Jackson trying to walk out there. So I'm just trying to be myself and relax, and then obviously the fight comes. I do my walkout. I really enjoy the walkout. I'm pointing to my friends. I'm beating on my chest. I'm like, this is amazing. I'm putting on a bit of a show. And then we get to the corner. I put my mouth guard in. I high-five Jack. I high-five my corner. And then I take a second to sort of compose myself and be like, all right, the walkout's over. Now it's time to have a fist fight. And you remember, like, again, like, my focus was just to relax. And I remember I get in the cage and I look at Jackson, my opponent, and he's smiling. Like, he's kind of like smiling at me. And I remember thinking, you can't play fucking mind games with me. Why are you smiling at me, you know? And then the referee turns to me and says, you ready? You ready? Let's go. 3, 2, 1, fight. And this dude cracks me immediately on the feet. Like, the first exchange, he hits me with this beautiful switch hook, and I'm like instant, like, oh my God, this guy hits hard. They were telling the truth. This guy hits hard. And I remember just thinking, that's why he's smiling. Oh, he knows he's a fighter and I'm a comedian doing a side quest. This is a whole different thing. And immediately I just go into, like, you know, muscle memory. It was a crazy experience, man. I remember getting hit hard early and kind of being like, oh shit, this is a fight. It just kind of put me into, like, not fight or flight, but just instinct. And it was so different to anything I thought fighting would be like, because the intensity was so high that it's like it's not happening to you. It's like you're just watching things happen. I thought I'd be in there conscious and making choices and like, now I'm going to do this and do that. It was all just instinct. And unfortunately, my instinct was chin in the air, keep walking forward with singular jabs and just Homer Simpson the guy and just eat as many shots as you can until he gets tired. So yeah, the first round, I just get absolutely beaten to shit. In the first 20 seconds, he takes me down and slams me in my corner. And all the energy in the crowd of my friends being like, go, Blake, was like, oh my God, he's going to get murdered. And then he just proceeds to beat the shit out of me for the first round. The bell goes, I sit in my corner and I'm like, oh, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? Like, I'm a funny boy. I don't need to do this. This is nuts. But Jack Becker, he calms me down. He's like, you're doing fine. It's good. You just need to do this and this and this. And the second round starts. And my corner was screaming at me. They're like, get off the cage, get off the cage. And I remember thinking, like, I don't want to. He is going to knock me out. You don't get it. And then my corner's voice got really emotional. They were like, get off the cage. And I remember thinking, like, I'd rather get knocked out than have you sound like that. Like, I would rather get slept cold and shit myself than have you cry about the fact that I'm just stuck on this cage. So I circled off, and eventually we found ourselves, we started to have a little bit more success on the feet, and then we kind of got against the cage, and I remember kneeing him in the body like twice, and like on the second knee I kind of felt him like take a breath, like it kind of got through a little bit, and I heard his corner scream out, get your head out of there. And then I looked down and his head was like right in a position for like a choke, and I thought, oh, okay. So I did the one thing that people in MMA hate, and they were like, do not ever sit back for a guillotine. Do not do it. I did it, but it actually ended up working. And I locked in the choke, closed the guard, and man, like, when he tapped, that feeling was just like unlike anything, especially because he was beating the shit out of me, especially because I was getting dominated, and then to get the win like that, I mean, it was crazy, you know, like just to jump up on the cage and scream and feel that was insane. And to share it with Jack. And again, I would not hold it up against the Eternal MMA media team's photos, but there's a great photo of me in ecstasy, sort of just hugging Jack after the win. That's, again, just another cool memory we get to have in our friendship. So it was awesome. I hope Eternal just keeps not finding anyone better for a long time. I'll do it as long as I'm able, as long as Eternal will have me. I love the sport. I'm going to keep doing it while my friends are fighting and while I can be involved with it and while I can keep offering something to Eternal. In terms of life, I mean, I try not to attach myself to any result anymore, whether it be in comedy, whether it be in acting, whether it be in Eternal. I don't try and plan ahead. Everyone always asks me, what's your 5 year? I just want to be alive, and I want to be doing what I like doing. You know, I think the happiest people that I know in my life just spend the smallest percentage of time and energy doing shit they hate with people they hate. So I just want to keep dropping that percentage over the years. I want to just keep, as much as I can, doing more of the shit that I like doing and getting better at the stuff that I do. So hopefully I can just keep doing that with Eternal. keep doing that with comedy, and we'll see where it takes me. Yeah.